like 3-ring, chainring up front. Then we went to a 1x. Then we went to the Eagle, and I don't know, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And everything's kind of like, we went to 27.5, which is still around, but some people think it might fade. Is everything kind of shifting to e-bikes, you think? Or like, where do you think some of the sport's going to go?
Like, hey, all it's a
All right, so super excited for my guest today. Kind of met a couple years ago at an Arkansas race, so I'll get to that. So Ethan, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, sure thing. Glad to be here.
Let me check your mic real quick. All right, should be good. So yeah, I was in Arkansas Enduro, and you were there with the Rocky Mountain team, and I saw Remy, and I was like, man, that guy looks just like Remy. And you just come up to me and you're like, can I help you? I was like, man, the guy on your team looks just like Remy. But so Remy's out of BC. Is it Galvin? Is that how you say his last name?
Govin.
Govin. Yeah, I didn't want to butcher it.
Yeah.
So I was just like, you're like, that is Remy. I'm like, what? And we're in Arkansas. I'm just like, why is he here? And he's like, yeah, he kind of came in and yeah, so I met you. You guys were super nice. The whole team was nice. And you guys did the enduro. You and Remy were crushing it.
Yeah, trying to anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember like after practice on Saturday or whatever, he goes, you guys really racing this stuff? Because it's Arkansas, there's no dirt. It's just like rocks, the crunch, like to the little rocks. But yeah, so that's how we met. And then later you did a demo in Bentonville, and we just kind of hung out for a minute, but you were pretty busy. And what's his name was also there.
Wade Simmons.
Wade Simmons, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that was the Wade Simmons off the little tower there that they jumped. And then that everyone had to delete that video or hide it because Bentonville didn't like that.
Yeah, that trail wasn't officially open yet.
Yeah.
And Wade was just doing free ride stuff.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for making the time. I know we were going to do a video one. You're like, hey, I think I'll be coming through. I'll just swing by, and which I kind of mentioned I love the face-to-face a lot better, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing.
So let's talk about your job and what you do. You're part of the demo team. You travel, what we just talked about before we started, on the East Coast mostly, and you work for Rocky Mountain Bikes. How did you get involved with that? And because to some people, that's like a dream job, kind of what you do.
Yeah. So my official position is a technical representative for Rocky Mountain, but I'm also in charge of the demo fleet and doing that for dealers. My main focus of the job is more so dealer support. I go around, help them with whatever problems they're having, try to get their employees stoked on the bikes so they'll help sell them, and then take them out on rides, as well as do demos open to the public. Our, like Rocky's kind of idea of how to do it changed from last year to this year. Last year we were trying to do more public-facing demos and get as many butts on bikes as possible. This year, with the economy slowing down a little bit, we've been trying to promote sell-through through our dealers and get just better, have more people on our bikes than our competitors, basically. How I got the job, I applied online and met the requirements. Basically, now what helped me meet all those qualifications is I have about 8 years as a mechanic experience doing that. Then I spent 3 years in oil and gas doing a little bit of roustabout work, and then into consulting. Then I went into environmental consulting, doing like stream restorations and environmental site assessments, stuff like that. So all that, I think, rolled into one, kind of gave me an idea of what they were looking for. And obviously I'm big into mountain biking. Mm-hmm. I try to be a good ambassador for the sport and racing and everything. So I think they saw that, or saw the potential, and talked to my references and got me where I am now.
Dude, yeah, it's It's pretty sweet. I'm sure you love it. Yeah, and like home for you is West Virginia, so like probably people are like, what like it's not like you're in a big city by any means. So probably finding that job's also a little could be a little tricky a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, thankfully, the job involves traveling
Yeah.
like everywhere. Even this year, I've been as far south as Georgia, and I'll be going to Vermont next month. Last year, I was in let's see, Maine, Florida, and Texas. So that was kind of the extremes of my territory. This year, I'm staying basically east of the Mississippi, and I won't go quite up to Maine, even though Vermont's right there on the border. But luckily, West Virginia works out as a pretty good middle ground because it's just centrally located on the East Coast, and I basically follow the good weather and try to do stuff in the South in the like early spring, late fall when the weather's still nice down there, and then peak summer I'll go north. So it's a little bit. It's going to be their driest time of the year, but also when most of the trails are open. The cats.
Yeah.
All good. Yeah.
So last year when you were doing it, what place were you like, dude, this place is rad?
Let's see. I've always loved going down to like North Carolina,
Yeah.
Eastern Tennessee. I was surprised with the amount of mountain biking that is in Texas. Really, I didn't think. I was like, there's no mountains in Texas. Like, how is this gonna work?
Yeah.
And they use all the elevation of like the riverbeds and stuff to their advantage. Similar to Arkansas, though, it's a lot of rock. So that was a surprising place. New England, Vermont, New Hampshire was pretty good. It's kind of like similar terrain to Pacific Northwest, but on a much smaller scale, obviously. I mean, they still got really good descents, 2,000-foot drops and stuff like that, but I think that was probably one of my favorite places. Either the North Carolina area or New England were both really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I love North Carolina. I mean, I was talking to a guy about a year ago, and he likes the South between like Atlanta. So you got Jared's Place, you got Knoxville, and you got Asheville. He calls it the Triangle. He's like, man, there's so much good riding right there.
Yeah, and northern Georgia is absolutely pleathered with good riding too.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure if you know Ben Hobbs, but he lives like
Yeah.
right there in Clayton.
Yeah.
And there's tons of good riding there.
Well, we have a friend in common that I didn't know when I met you was Zach Neuron.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Zach told me about those trails. He's like, yeah, there's some good trails in Clayton.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's some actually like unknown or people like they're not really like on trail forks or anything that he says that are really legit. So I've never ridden them, but he's like, yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
And yeah, Clayton, Georgia, that's a good area up there. So yeah, speaking of Zach, how'd you ever meet Zach?
I was through racing. Yeah. So he started doing the West Virginia Enduro series. He actually started off as like one of those guys that you kind of hate because he keeps beating you.
Yeah.
And then before too long, you're like, oh, okay. I was like, it's the same dude. I'm getting mad for no reason. Like, I'm going to go ride with this guy and get better.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up happening.
And he's a super nice dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's funny. He's like, he's quiet. He keeps to himself, but then he'll crack a funny joke here and there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, it's like low key, like super low key.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually, basically Davoo is where he kind of grew up in a sense, and then he's like, all right, started expanding, going to Windrock a lot, and then, dude can ride.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he's like a beanpole too. It's crazy.
It's funny. Yeah.
So racing, so you're trailing doing this, but you're also racing enduro. Actually, let me get back. So before you got this job, how much were you mountain biking? How much were you like were you like, I want to get a job in mountain biking, or were you kind of a little bit of both?
What I was trying to do before I got this job was like get picked up by a brand and just have like some sort of factory support. Whether that just be like an ambassador and I get like
We got visitors.
What's up? I didn't really care how, like what kind of support. I just wanted some help. I had the local help of a bike shop, Pike Street, and they still help me out. Like Jason, the owner, is super cool. Allows me to get everything that I can't get from basically work or through connections in the industry. Like he'll help me out with that stuff. So I still race for him and like wear the jersey and everything.
What are you doing? Hang on 1 second.
That's funny.
We had a cat jump on the table for people just listening, like, and go right to Ethan, like, right at him. All right. But, yeah.
I can make a joke about a track. No, I'm just kidding. No. Yeah. Before I got the current role, I was spending a lot of time working, doing specific workouts like for racing because that's what I wanted to do was race the Enduro World Series, and to the point to where at some point it probably got in the way of work.
Yeah.
They were telling me, they're like, "Hey, you need to stop taking so many Fridays off," and I was like, "Yeah, but I gotta go to North Carolina for this race," and they're like, "No, you don't. You have to be here for work." So I think that was one of the reasons why I started looking for a job in the industry. And Rocky was actually the first one that I applied to. So it worked. I applied for a couple others. I had interviews with different brands. But Rocky was basically my first pick. And it was my second offer, but it was the one I was holding out for.
Yeah.
So it worked out really well.
Do you think when you were already racing, like, people already kind of knew your face a little bit? Do you think any of that kind of helped?
I think so, a little bit. Like, I started to build a little bit of a reputation. I hope. I don't know. I hope it's a good one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was like, if I'd go up north or something for like a race at Massachusetts, I'd know 2 or 3 people that also traveled up there for the race, but the locals would have no idea who I was. But it's starting to get where I recognize somebody almost everywhere I go now, but I think that's just because of work. Like I've been to a lot of small towns, and so many people know me as the Rocky guy now, and I'd say it's working out in my favor. Like I have a decent support group too that help me out.
Yeah, I was talking to Ben, who puts on the West Virginia series, and when I saw him, he's like, "Yeah, he was just a little guy, kind of hung around." He's like, "I'll be damned to where he's at now." He was just like, he would ride the bus with us, the shuttle or something, or I don't know what he was talking about, but he's like, "Yeah, now he's all grown up and he's fast as shit." He's like it's cool to watch him grow up and be who he is and stuff like that. Ben's a good dude.
Yeah, old Benji, he's a character.
Yeah, he's
the only person I've ever seen wear Kashima off of a fork.
Really?
Yeah. Like I didn't know that was because basically Kashima is just like an anodization layer.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you could wear through it.
Wow. So he's basically just never serviced it, or what?
Oh, no.
That's pretty amazing.
There was one time I was riding with him, and he's like, "Dude, I can't get my fork to come back up at all." He's like, I hit a compression or something. It just feels super solid, and then it won't rebound. And I was like, "Oh, well, maybe your rebound valve's just closed down all the way." And I took the cap off that covers the adjustment, and oil started to come out, and I just screwed it back on. I'm like, "You're screwed, Benji."
Yeah.
I was like, you got to take that apart and like send it away to somebody.
Yeah, I had a old giant hardtail, and it started sounding like an empty spray can. My buddy's like, I wouldn't even check that. That thing's probably done. And I was like, "Do you think up top where I get this oil thing?" He goes, Yes. There's nothing inside there. So I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, luckily it was just a cheap bike. It wasn't super expensive." But so did you put kind of EWS like on the back burner a little bit as you took this position?
No, not really, because the year that I got the job, I started in December. I had qualified for EWS, So my
No,
first
really?
year working for Rocky, I officially qualified, and I was like, and then there was 2 races in the U.S. So I was like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
But the 2 races in the U.S., one was in Burke, Vermont, the other one was in Sugarloaf, Maine. I think 3 weeks before the Burke, Vermont race, I was in Carrabassett Valley, where Sugarloaf is, for NimbaFest, doing a demo up there. And I actually got the chance to ride with Adam Craig on those trails. But we were calling them Signature Series demos. This is the one that you and I met at in Bentonville. We had another one of those at Perry Hill, Vermont, on the weekend of Sugarloaf.
Really?
And they would not let me, like, I was like, hey guys, it's like, I've completed this, like, 5-year goal of mine, basically. There's 2 EWSs in the United States. They're a week apart from each other. Can I have both of these weekends off? And they're like, no, pick one.
Damn.
So I just arbitrarily, I was like, well, Vermont's closer. And I was like, maybe I won't have to travel as far, because Sugarloaf's in the middle of nowhere, Maine. And I probably would have done a little bit better at Sugarloaf because the conditions were pretty bad, and I got to pre-ride the trails a few weeks beforehand. But I ended up doing Burke. It was really cool, though, because I basically made my way into the team house, like, one step at a time. When
Yeah.
I can get into this story a little
Yeah.
bit if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because the first day of practice, I got there, and I was like, hey, guys, like, I'm the tech rep for the East Coast. And, like, Remy had already known me at that point, so it was kind of a easy in. But I had never met Jesse or the rest of the team yet. And I guess Remy basically, put in a good word for me. And they're all regular people. They're just faster on bikes than we are.
Yeah.
So, but I met, both mechanics. Then there's the manager, and she was basically the PT for the whole team. So, like, Miss Seuss, she was in charge of nutrition, and she's still traveling with Jesse. Like, Jesse, when he switched over to Canyon, went with her and his mechanic Adam Trotter. So Rocky's enduro team has new people now. But when we were in Burke, the first night of practice, I was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna sleep in the van, like, no big deal." I had an air mattress and a sleeping bag. And then the second night, or the morning after, I woke up and they're like, "Yeah, so how's the van?" I'm like, "Oh, it's fine. It's a little chilly." And they're like, "Well, if you want, you can probably, like, sleep on the floor of the house." And I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe I'll do that tonight." And then, so the second night of practice, I slept there. The third night of practice, I slept on the couch. And it's like the last night we were there, Remy's like, "There's just a spare bed upstairs." And I was like, "Well, you guys never offered it to me."
That's funny.
Yeah, but just, like, worked my way into the house slowly, and it was funny.
Yeah. And I'm sure, the relationships just kept growing and growing there, too.
Yeah. It was neat. Like, I opened the door the first time, and went up to the door, and Jesse's the one that pulled the door open. He's like, "Hi, I'm Jesse." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"It's nice to meet you."
Yeah.
But
How'd you end up doing that race?
pretty bad.
Really?
I was happy that I finished. I think I got, I don't know, it was like 90th overall.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there was maybe 120, 130 pro men. So I didn't get the result I wanted to. I was hoping for, like, a top 50. But this is the first time doing it. I was nervous as could be, because it was like, this is a life, like, a 5-year goal that I've made for myself. And I think I just put so much stress on myself that I made poor line choices. And then it was also a really hard race. Even the team had told me, they're like, "Yeah, this is the hardest EWS we've done, like, as far as elevation wise went," because there was no shuttles except for practice day. There was a lift, but we weren't using it. And then the next weekend for Sugarloaf, it was like 3,500 feet of climbing, and they were using a chair the whole time. I was
Dang.
like, man, if I could have picked another one.
I know. That's
If I would have known.
yeah. But like I always say to people, like you remember the hard times, right? You remember the most challenging things.
Yeah,
If it
that's
was
for
easy,
sure.
you'd be like, oh yeah, I did do that. You know, just kind of blow it off a little bit. Not that I'm saying it was going to be easy by any means, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool though.
Yeah, like the 6th time off that toll road, your legs tell you.
Smoked, yeah.
Yeah, your legs will remember that.
What is like? How do I compare this? So like Upper Black Mountain at DuPont or Pisgah, right? You've ridden that? Have you
Yeah.
Is it when you're on your 6th stage or at the end of EWS or a pretty well-known enduro, probably not the same, but like Upper Black, like after you've been climbing with your bike all day, you're done. Do you feel that same way, or is like Upper Black kind of easy? Do you know?
Well,
I'm not the trail. I'm sorry, not the trail itself. Just like exhausted.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it depends on the race too.
Yeah.
Like the West Virginia series races now, even this year, I have a couple buddies that watch me. Like, we'd all ride the whole course together, and he's like, "Dude, you look the same coming out of gate 1 as you did gate 5."
Oh,
He's
nice.
like, "I didn't notice a difference," and I was like, "Well, I was feeling it, but I said I finally had the energy to output like similar numbers on
Yeah.
the last stage than I did the first." The EWS was not that way though. It was like by the time I got to stage 6 on the second day, I was just like, "Oh, here we go. Come on, legs. Let's see what you got."
Yeah.
So I didn't quite come out of the gate with the same amount of energy on those, but just bigger. It was a bigger race, more mileage, more elevation, and it's basically 4 days of practice and racing. Where most of the time, the like local race series are, you might have 3 days if you do 2 days of practice, but most people just pre-ride the course one day, race it the next.
Yeah.
This year I've been doing a little bit better because with there not being any like EDR World Cup qualifiers in the United States, at least at first before they announced the nationals that was going to be a qualifier, I basically just set my goals on winning the West Virginia Enduro Series. I never made it a big priority before because I was always chasing qualifying, but because I made it a priority, and I've also been getting to ride my bike a lot more
Yeah.
because of work. So sometimes it's not like the structured workout that I may need, but it's time on the bike regardless.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to ask you, so you travel for work, and me, I travel for work Monday through Friday. How do you maintain, I know you're in the bike industry, but how do you maintain to stay like in shape and not eat like, all right, I got to drive here and you just eat gas station food or whatever? How do you stay to where you need to be for the races?
yeah, it's not the easiest,
Right.
that's for sure, because you have to consciously make better decisions.
Yeah.
And like sometimes, I'll definitely go off the rails every
Yeah.
once in a while, and you meet a bunch of friends that you haven't seen since college, and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go drink a few beers with them tonight, and like things can get out of hand easily. But when I am on the road and going from like different town to different towns, visiting dealers, I try really hard to eat healthy and like try to drink mainly water. But I'll stop at restaurants. Like luckily, I have basically a per diem system to use, so I can get breakfast, lunch, and dinner and have it mostly paid for if I'm reasonable. And I'll try to eat clean. Like Chipotle is a good place. You can
Yeah.
go and get like a ton of vegetables and relatively clean stuff. And Panda Express is another one. So it's just I end up eating Chick-fil-A a lot too, like wraps and salads.
I got a Chick-fil-A store when you're done.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead.
No, but that's pretty much it. Just like having to make a conscious effort all
Yeah.
the time to like resist grabbing a Reese cup every time you walk into a gas station.
Yeah. So yeah, just even like going to Asheville a couple weekends ago, just stopping in. You're like, all right. Someone always said if you go to a gas station, the best thing to get, and I don't do this, I don't know why, but is beef jerky. Like it's one of the best things you can get. Not like I'm not talking about Slim Jims, but yeah.
Yeah, if you actually like find the good
Yeah.
beef jerky. It's expensive though. A lot
Yeah.
of times. Yeah, it'll be like $14 a bag.
You want the best beef jerky. I'm not even like being biased. I'm trying not to be. It's only in Kentucky too.
Okay.
It's like Mingus. It's like a little bull. You ever
Mingus.
seen it?
Okay.
It won't be by. It's on its own little like thing. It won't be
Okay.
with everybody else. It's. I'll show it to you when we get done. But they have like hot teriyaki, something else, dude. It's good.
Okay. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it.
But it's also probably the most expensive.
I gotcha.
So yeah, there's this guy I work with. He's a pretty cool dude, but doesn't change his routine. Loves Chick-fil-A, like loves it. Like to 1 week, I was going out. I was in North Carolina working. I'd go out. Same thing. We got per diem, and I was like, "What are you doing for dinner?" Or "What have you been doing for dinner this week?" Because he don't really like. He's kind of an introvert. He's like, it's Chick-fil-A every night, man. I was like, what? Like Monday through Friday every night, and it's the same thing.
Dang.
I was like, dude, let's break that habit. He goes, why? Why would I break my habit?
Why would I?
Yeah. And so he's working in Pennsylvania this past week, and he's like, hey, man, what do you think I should do here? And he screenshotted the closest Chick-fil-A. It was an hour and a half away. He's like, I'm kind of at a crossroads. I'm like, well, you move on. Like, find something else. He goes, I don't know. It's not that simple. I was like, dang, dude loves Chick-fil-A, man.
I don't know if I could do it, man.
Yeah. I'll have to find out. I'll have to see if he actually changed his course and did something else. But, yeah, one time we went out to dinner. I got him to go out, and he's just like, this is it for me. I'm not doing it again. I was like, don't you want to meet people? Nah, I'm good. So, yeah, your goal is to race the West Virginia, be like top pro for that series, right? In a sense.
Yeah, I'm hoping to win it overall this year.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing nationals in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Down at Rock Creek, so I'm hoping to do well enough to qualify. I still need to look over the rules and see how many different licenses I have to buy and everything, because it's USAC nationals, but you have to be a UCI member to collect EDR points now. It's just like so many hoops you have to go through, and by the time you register for the race, it's like over $500 in fees just to get there and have the chance of collecting points.
What do you? So you just I rode Rock Creek like 2 weeks before you did. You just rode it and it was a mess one day. The next day it looked like it was mint.
It got better the second day for sure. They did they called it the backcountry break-in, and it was a lot of the courses that will be racing for nationals, and they had just cut them in. Like they were all fresh, and that week it rained almost every day leading up to it. So practice day, we were making jokes about putting cleats on muck boots, like because I think the worst section was the climbing trail that they had made, because it's going to be an easy trail eventually once it's packed in. It'll just be like riding up the green at Canoga. Yeah. But because they had just cut it in and they got 5 days of rain on top of it, you were just slogging up it like cattle, is what it felt like. But by the second half of Sunday on race day, you could ride 3/4 of it. Yeah. And then I just saw on Instagram a few days ago where they're like, yeah, the really muddy tram road section we took out and like put another fresh cut trail in. That hopefully drains a little bit. We'll see. So these are trails that like weren't even on the map, like just basically off the beaten path. Yeah, if you go to Rock Creek and you pedal up, there's like one off to your left. I think it's Dark Hollow, and then the rest of them are off to your right. Mm-hmm. These were like straight up and off the backside. Really? Yeah. So, and they're making them specifically for nationals. So it was basically the only chance to like kind of familiarize yourself with the terrain before nationals. And I'm trying to do good so I can collect points, and I figured that this was my best option. Because the other thing I was going to do that weekend is race the GNCC at Snowshoe. Yeah, I want to get into that, but
you run a GoPro. Now, do you go back? Will you go back and look at that footage for nationals a little bit and kind of try to remember a little bit?
To a certain point, maybe. I'll probably just run it on practice day, and then because I know they're going to change a lot, and there's a couple more stages for nationals too. I've heard some rumors about certain stages in the park, but I don't know exactly what. So I'll probably look back through it somewhat, but then I'll just re-record practice runs on practice day and look at them that night.
Yeah.
It's kind of like cramming for a test.
Yeah.
You know, exactly what they told you not to do in school.
Yeah.
But it's a skill that you have to be good at.
Yeah. Yeah. School tests are a little different. You're not really engaged, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always wondering that. And then on your day, your practice day, do you ride an e-bike? You still ride your normal bike?
I still ride my normal bike. A lot of race promoters too don't, like, they'll say it somewhere in the event registration where it's like you have to ride the bike that you plan to race, or no e-bikes allowed. They usually don't say anything because there's lots of people that do that. I just don't like it because you know, an e-bike's going to be almost 20 pounds heavier than my race bike, and it reacts different. It's going to ride different, and on the super steep stuff, I just like the way my bike handles. It's got my specific parts that I'm used to. Braking points are a little bit different, so I just like doing it on my own bike. That way I know, and I try to not go full gas on like pre-ride practice day, but I also you have to practice at close to race pace, because if you just ride everything slow, then you're not going to, like, come Sunday when it's race day, you're not going to be well prepared to race, or stuff's going to be coming at you at a different rate. So I just try to conserve a little bit of energy, walk more, or a flat pedally section, just not put out as many watts, but something along those lines.
Do you have, like, on practice day, like, all right, I want to be done by X time because I want to recover, or you're like, hey, I just want to get through it? And then also kind of two part to that, like, what's your recovery from practice today, or do you feel fine the next day?
It kind of starts the week of, really. It's like even Monday, Tuesday, it's like getting good sleep. I aim for at least 8 hours every night, which is sometimes with work like hard to obtain, but always strive for that. Trying to hydrate as best as possible too, and eat clean, because all that factors into your recovery time. From pre-ride practice day to race day, though, there's so many factors that go into it. A lot of times it's weather. A lot of times it's like, I'm trying to ride with my friends and like just have fun. So we'll just go out, and depending on the race too, like sometimes you can shuttle, and that makes it a lot easier. But I try to be done by, I'd say 4 or 5 at least, and then go get a good meal or fix something. If you go to the grocery store or you have the ability to cook, and then just get stretch, hydrate, and good sleep.
Yeah.
Prepared for the next day and so forth. I'd say that would be it.
I think some people that I've met prepare for just that day. Say you race on Sunday, they just prepare for Sunday, and they kind of like the rest of the weekend they're kind of at a wayside. It sounds like you prepare for the weekend instead of just the one race.
Yeah. Especially if it's a big race, like I'll even go down, depending on where it is or what the accommodations are. Like the earlier you can get there and relax more, like go ride the trails and take it easy, and like try not to overdo it, basically. That way you have more energy come Sunday. But yeah, even like factoring in driving and stuff, like if you drive 7 hours, you're going to get out of the car and feel like a potato.
Yeah.
So I try to do that on like Thursday or Friday before the race, get down there in plenty of time, be able to stretch the legs out, go practice, and recover efficiently. It's one of the things I could that my boss, when I was working environmental, never really understood. He's like, why do you always have to leave Thursday afternoon or Friday morning?
Yeah.
For a race on Sunday.
Yeah.
I was like, well, because it's not cyclocross. Because it's 8 hours away.
Yeah.
And it's 4 hours of racing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always funny.
When I did CAD for a mechanical engineer, and like at lunchtime or something, I was always looking at mountain bike stuff, and my boss is like, hey, you need to pick something. He's like, you seem like you'd be distracted, or I'd come in and I went down, be all raw on my elbows. He goes, I just don't understand you. Like, and everyone else is kind of like an engineer or something, like super nerdy dudes, and they're just kind of like sitting there and just like, did we hire the right guy?
Yeah.
Thankfully, it was a co-op, and then when my co-op was out there, like, we're just gonna move on. I'm like, that's fine with me too.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. So, oh man, I forgot what I was gonna say. So, recovery. What do you like to do for recovery? So when I ran 2 marathons, I did ice baths as I was training, and then do you do stuff like that? So I will say, hotel. I've gone back and forth to whatever floor you're on. They always have an ice machine. You're like, I was like, man, this is gonna take forever. So then I'll take the garbage, a garbage bag that's just became in my trash can and fill that bag and then go. But then that's one time that collapsed on me, and it just went out everywhere.
Oh, no.
So yeah.
I haven't messed around with the ice baths too much. I had a buddy that was real big into it, and like we all made fun of him.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason I don't.
Yeah.
But I probably should like experiment with it and see if it does help a little bit. I really just try to like hydrate, stretch, and sleep, and hopefully let my body take care of itself. But no, I should.
Yeah.
I should experiment with that ice bath.
What about like workouts, not just riding? Like, do you do any, because I feel like sometimes I'll do some like kettlebells, and then I've noticed lately, then I'll get, my hands fall asleep, almost like if you're riding a dirt bike and you get arm pump. I'm trying to figure out how to go figure that out.
I do a couple workouts. I would say 2 a week, maybe. Sometimes just 1 a week, depending on schedule and work and everything. But basically, it's almost like an injury prevention sort of thing. So a lot of times it'll be working on shoulders. So like I've broken a collarbone before, so it basically makes it so if you hit the ground, like you're not just gonna snap. There's kind of like if you look at the pros, you look at Richie Rude, like he's built like a brick shit house.
Yeah.
So it's like the one run he did in Whistler where everybody commented and it was like, did that tree apologize to him?
Yeah, it's almost where Richie Rude now is our Richie Rude, where like you hit a tree, because I've seen him post that a couple times. They'll tag him in it.
I pulled a Richie Rude.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I'll do some things like that, just like a shoulder sequence, and then of course like you work on legs and stuff one day just to get a little bit more explosive power or something along those lines. I have been working with Jason Sear, who runs Cycle Strategies. He's like, I've been running his logo on my jersey and stuff, and he helps me out. I can call him just about any time. If nothing else, he'll just like chew me out for, he's like, yeah, what do you expect? You haven't done any of your workouts. Like,
yeah.
He just keeps me in line. Plus, he's hilarious to talk to. He's a retired Army Green Beret and just an absolute hard ass. Plus, he goes out and wins, like, I think he's in his 50s now, but he can still win the 40-plus class, like, hands down.
Dang.
I think at Rock Creek, he might have won by, like, 4 minutes. So he's just, like, one of those old guys that doesn't know how to turn it off sort of deal. He does a pretty good job of keeping me in line sometimes.
That's good though. Some people, I think I need that too. Like, I can't just go to, if I don't have a program or something, or like a Planet Fitness, to be like, all right, I'm just going to do a workout today and nothing's scheduled. You're just trying to, don't get me wrong, you're still kind of working out, but I need something almost like someone like that to be like, get it. You better get it or you ain't gonna get it, type
Yeah.
thing.
If nothing else, it holds you accountable.
Right, yeah.
You're like, okay, well, you can't expect to go out and win if you didn't put in the work.
Yeah.
And like, here's the evidence that you didn't.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
So yeah, you mentioned a minute ago the GNCC. So how long you been riding for? Was it a little bit?
Yeah. So funny enough, not a lot of people know. I started riding dirt bikes way before mountain bikes.
Okay.
I always remember my brother and dad basically being the ones responsible for getting me on a dirt bike when I was about 4 years old. And then once I got on a dirt bike, I probably didn't touch a bicycle again until I was 16. I started working at a bike shop. Then I took a hiatus, did like skateboarding all throughout high school.
Yeah.
I tell my dad all the time, I was like, man, if I could would have just stopped that and just like continued on the dirt bike, I think I would have been like better yet. And he's like, yeah, I tried to tell you that, but I wanted to shove that skateboard up your ass.
Were you more more motocross or still trail?
Still trails. I probably rode or raced motocross maybe twice, and I just didn't really like it. Like I always liked, my brother and I just always raced each other through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was always trying to either keep up with him or trying to drop him. Something along those lines where, we're always just racing through the woods, dodging trees. Like I thought that's what riding a dirt bike was for the longest time. And I think that's where a lot of my kind of like bike handling skill comes from, was like, it was never really taught. I just followed my brother a good bit and like saw what he was doing and what worked for him. So I would try to do the same. I still do that today when I go out and like ride with shop employees and stuff. Like they're showing me their local trails and I'm like, well, that dude hit this 20-foot gap. Like I'll just do the same thing he's doing. I'm sure I can sail across it too. I've been on a couple where they're like, yeah, you're the only rep that's ever come around that's like, I don't drop. And I'm like, cool, that's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to ride. We built a track at my buddy's farm, and what got me better was, I was like super rusty off camber. I'm basically like just skirting along, And then they're like, "Hey, we're gonna try something," and it wasn't me. It was a couple of us were just new to it, so they're like, "We're just gonna keep going out over time, and you go, and we're gonna see how long it takes us to catch you." And I'm like, "Okay." And then at first I was like, he's on me. And as soon as I caught you, kind of like, all right, you kind of let it down. But they're not going to, when they catch you, they're not just going to like stop. All right, I caught you. They're going by you and then maybe you can learn. I don't know how much time went by, but then they're like, the loop's like 4 miles on this farm that we made. Maybe it was longer than that. But anyway, so it got to the point they never caught us anymore. Also you're learning the trail very, very well.
Yeah.
But they were like, how fast were y'all going? Because there would be like 2 or 3 of us, and we're like, I don't know, like, man, we were giving it the beans. How long y'all been here? We're like, I don't know, like, but it grew your confidence so much better, like that way, versus like, hey, just go out there and just be by yourself and try to get faster, Yeah. But that was a good training exercise that I don't think we thought was ever gonna work, but it worked out really well.
Yeah, and it ends up being fun too. 'Cause you like turn it into a competitive game.
Yeah.
Basically, you're like, oh yeah, you think you can catch me?
Yeah.
Watch this, mother.
Yeah, that's what it was. And sometimes you were like, you think the person was on you, and then they were there. You got like a ghost, So does riding dirt bikes, and how much does it help with mountain biking? Do they play a good part of one another?
I think so. If nothing else, I tell people that riding a dirt bike is similar to riding a mountain bike downhill. I was like, you're going as fast as you can all of the time. It doesn't matter if you're going up or down. You never really get a break. So you're just like constantly taking the trail in at max pace, for lack of better terms. Definitely the way you like throw the bike around and maneuver it is a little bit different. I've had guys that I race moto with be like, oh yeah, we can tell you came from mountain bikes, like the way you just let the dirt bike do whatever you want to underneath of you.
Yeah.
And then I've had other guys in mountain biking tell me the opposite. They're like, yeah, we can tell you came from moto, and I was like, well, it's definitely a blend of both.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people ride dirt bikes kind of like stiff and they squeeze the bike a lot. I'll turn the bike with my knees when I need to or lean it over, but I kind of do let it do its thing, and I think that is something that I've brought over from mountain biking. It's always kind of funny, but yeah.
That's good. Yeah, it's funny. I've been off a dirt bike for a while, and then I got one on last summer, and had a recluse clutch. So that was I liked it, but I almost felt like I was cheating a little bit, you know. But and we have a new loop now. We kind of like took a skid mate for it. Kept getting wider and wider because side by sides wanted to be on it. So it's high speed now, but it's got some good stuff. If you're ever back around and we got decent weather, we'll have to check it out. But
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, so I rode it and they were like, man, you could tell you've rode bikes before. Not like, I was like, yeah, you're right. Like you could feel going downhill, just kind of like letting it do its thing. And it was weird. I feel better. I'm not good by any means, but I feel better on a dirt bike now than I did 10 years ago, just because I'm still mountain biking, so I'm getting the feel, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because my cousin who's just straight dirt bikes, he was kind of like, not mad, but he's like, I mean, I've been riding bikes forever. He's like, and you just like pick it up. I'm like, well, I mean, a little bit, but he's just kind of like impressed. Like it never really went away. Kind of just lateral move a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they definitely transition. You're riding a bike.
Yeah.
Whether it has a motor on it or not, it's like there's similar physics at play.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, anyway. You can take like Russell Bobbitt, for example.
Yeah.
You know, he came from moto. I think he's like 8-time national enduro champion, and then he hops on a mountain bike and he just kills everybody.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, the dude's just used to riding trails blind. That's what he did for probably closer to 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
But so it's almost like sight reading music to a certain extent. Like the more you do it, the faster you get at it. So it's like the more blind trail that you ride, the like new places, the better you are at anticipating what's going to come up next on the trail, or
Yeah.
like, depending on who built it and that sort of thing. A lot of the like gnarly enduro stuff in the Southeast are built by the same handful of like 10 dudes.
Yeah.
And you can kind of predict like, oh, the trail's probably going to do this, or like at the bottom of this chute there's going to be a catch berm that's 2 feet wide.
Yeah.
It's like you can just from seeing it a lot.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that my job's helped out with a lot too, is like getting to ride in all these places that I wouldn't otherwise like seek out and go ride, but you see everybody's local flavors, so you start to be able to anticipate trails and like how they're going to ride more often. I think it's a theory.
Yeah. Have you made your way up to Horns Hill yet?
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think?
Dude, for being in Ohio, it is surprising. There are some jumps there that I don't like hitting.
Yeah. Yeah. I went off a trail called Chernobyl, and there was a train of us, like 4 or 5. I'll have to show you a picture when we're done, if I remember. But and it's a jump, but it's like all of a sudden I saw this guy go over this ridge, and I was like, oh, I know that guy. He's not like super like expert. I feel like I'm his speed, and then he just went over this. I was like, oh, I got it. And I went over it, and it's like almost kind of like it's kind of a weird like step down. It's kind of like the top part's peaked over the bottom part a little bit. I think I have to look. I can't remember. But anyway, so I pulled up, and I pulled up too much, and then it flattens out like this. And I had it, and I landed on my back wheel like this, and then I slammed. Dude, my tailbone, that was in March, still hurts. Like they said, the tailbone takes forever.
Yeah.
I thought I broke my back, and then they're like, all right, just lay there. They started asking me questions. Can you move your toes? I'm like, yeah. I was like, but it fucking hurts. They're like, yeah, I mean, you landed a flat on your back. So I was just like, and man, sometimes like you get in your head, you're like, I'm done mountain biking, and then once things start coming back, you're like, you'll never be done. Like, you know, you're just in the moment right there. It's
Just gonna adapt. And
yeah, yeah. But
go on.
Orange Hill has some stuff. It's good though.
Yeah. I've rode there a lot with all the Cherubinis.
Yeah.
And, a couple of Adams. Cam, my buddy Matt Adams
Yeah.
lives in Columbus. I've rode there a couple times with him. But every time I go back, there's like another fresh cut trail or
Yeah.
a huge jump line or something. Like the last time I went, I swear there was jump lines like 40, 50 foot gaps. And I was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Like, this is not my speed.
Yeah.
I like going downhill fast.
Yeah, I kind of like. I mean, I'm not. I like the trail at Rock Creek. It's tumbleweed. Like it's. I mean, I could go a little more aggressive, but like it's kind of like off camera, a little raw, a little bit. Like that stuff, I love. Like
Yeah.
I don't need. Yeah, a big gap. Give me something that's like that's gonna progress me and stuff like that.
Yeah. I like when trail builders kind of incorporate the natural features of like whatever the terrain is, and like Nico, Canuga, and the Ride Rock crew, like that whole crew of trail builders are pretty good at doing that, and they're also really good at making trails that are built to ride fast.
Yeah.
Like some of those features even flow better together if you were riding them at like max trail speed.
Yeah.
It's neat.
I meant to say, yeah, your GNCC. I mean, you're a pretty legit rider. Like, what was it last year? Yeah, I guess last year you are on the podium or something.
Yeah, for snowshoe, I raced the morning class, so just the 2 hour, and I raced Sportsman's A, and snowshoe's kind of my home. Really, I call it my home race or something along those lines. It's still 2.5 hours away from my actual house, but it feels like home to me. And I was sitting on the line because they release in rows up there, and I was talking to my buddy Avery, and he's like, "Oh, like, how do you think you're gonna do?" And I was like, "Dude, I'm gonna win." He's like, "Heck yeah, man, you're gonna win your class. That'll be sweet." And I was like, "No, man." I was like, "I want to pass all the chicks. I'm gonna win the whole race this time." And he's like, "Hell yeah, I like that mindset." But I ended up second in my class, and then third overall because Rachel Archer is a beast.
Yeah.
And can ride a dirt bike faster than me.
Dude, some of those guys it's scary how fast they're in the woods.
Yeah.
Scary.
And then because of how snowshoe works, and like there's so many rows, like, there might be 80 people in Sportsman's A, but there's 8 rows of 10. And there was a dude that started on row, I don't know, it was like 45. And he was in my class. He never physically passed me, but his time had been adjusted to where, like, I didn't even know I was in second. I thought I was winning my class the whole race. Yeah.
Damn.
Never got passed. So I was like, oh, cool. Like, got this in the bag. I'm just going to ride comfortable. And I should have been going harder, I guess.
Yeah. So, do you like to gravel ride or road bike for training?
Yeah. Mostly... It's almost more like a social thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if I'm not working and I'm home for a week or something, like I'll just go out on the gravel ride or on the road ride. But it's almost more so just to be with like the friends that do that. I like it to a certain extent, and I'll definitely go through phases. Or if it's rained a lot and the trails are muddy, I'll go out on the gravel bike instead. Depending on the workout that I need to do too, like sometimes it's easier to do intervals on a road bike than it is mountain bike. But yeah. I'll go.
Yeah, I felt road bike. It definitely helps with your endurance for sure. And you ever seen that video by, I think it's the Global Mountain Bike guys that did a mountain bike and a road bike guy, and they just kind of compare like where it spikes and then where it kind of goes. It was pretty cool. Like the mountain bike guy is like up and down, up and down. The road bike guy was kind of like more squared back down. Like,
okay.
because they're like they're comparing like just how, because the mountain bike you're down the hill, up the hill, and some cross country stuff, and how they were. And I'm sure it was kind of like a little fabbed up. They're like, road biking's harder, mountain biking's harder, type stuff. So then they showed all their cadence and all that type of stuff. So I think they were both kind of impressed a little bit.
Nice.
That was pretty cool. But I want to talk about Jesse leaving the team. Was that a surprise when so he wins the EWS overall, and then he kind of goes to another team? Like, did you guys know that?
We there had been rumors for a
Yeah.
while. Even when I was at Burke, it wasn't really talked about, but you could tell like from talking to other coworkers and stuff. We're like, yeah, we've heard through the rumor mill that Jesse might have an offer from another team. And then like later in the year, as we got closer and closer, it was like, yeah, we think it might be from this company. Yeah, we think it might be this amount. But it was never really confirmed. And it obviously wasn't something I was going to ask him. Be like,
Yeah.
dude, so what's going on for next year?
So we won't see you anymore, right?
But yeah, I think it was just basically an offer that was pretty hard to refuse. Like, especially he's not that he's not getting old, but he's getting older for the sport. And my take is like he's probably thinking about trying to make as much money as possible while he's in peak fitness. And I've heard the numbers are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. It's still a rumor. Like, I haven't seen it on paper or anything, but I think it's $250,000 and then like plus $50,000 for each race win.
Damn.
So it's like, yeah, if he goes out and wins the World Cup again, the dude could put all that money into index funds or something and retire.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. This what I think the thing that's like, tell people if you if you need to get money, go get it. I mean, but so is him and Remy still try to ride together?
Yeah. As far as I've seen, I've talked to Remy a couple times. Mostly it's just like casual conversation back and forth through Instagram DMs or something. I spent more time with Remy last year than I did with Jesse, so I just feel like it's easier to reach out and talk to him and feel like he's a friend. But yeah, from what I've seen, like when they're home together, they're still buddies, so they go out and ride like anybody else would. They're just, it's kind of like work.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, like now Canyon pays me.
Yeah.
Whatever. And he kept a few of his other sponsors too, but it was like bike components, even clothing, like those three changed. I think he still has whatever he uses for power, maybe stages or something. But yeah, I'm honestly surprised. Like, I know he's a good rider, but I was surprised how quickly he could adapt to everything else.
Yeah.
And then still go out and get a race win.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, point proven that like everybody makes pretty good stuff for one, and like two, he's an amazing rider and can adapt to stuff quickly.
Right. Yeah, he seems like a good dude. Yeah, he's just, I'm glad you guys weren't kind of like blindsided. Rocky Mountain went blindsided.
Yeah. And I think, he gave enough hints out too that was like, we kind of know something's coming, and I don't know all the details because they just, they don't. I'm the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah.
as far as, like, who needs to know stuff to make decisions.
Yeah.
But according to like some people I know in marketing, there's like, he was asking for more. He wanted to do some more specific like race testing stuff with different size frames, and it was just like things that we couldn't get approved into the budget. And he was talking to his contact or like, when you're racing, you're always around other people that are racing, so you're talking about it. And I think Canyon's program, they don't have a dealer base since they're direct to consumer.
Right.
And I think they're just able to put more money into kind of racing, prototyping, testing, and that sort of thing. And maybe I'm wrong. If I am, feel free, anyone that's listening, to correct me. But yeah, I think that's kind of the reason why is like why they're able to offer more, and why they're able to do more like prototyping stuff. Like, I've heard that he's basically getting a frame in between a small and a medium, and I know that's something he wanted from us that Rocky wasn't able to provide, basically, because because it costs so much money to get a mold.
Yeah, just for one bike or just one person in a sense.
Yeah.
They're like, no, just pick, yeah, we already got these type thing.
Just like adapt.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I've been doing that for 10 years. I'm tired
Yeah.
of it. So.
Wonder where like on the bike on geometry that he wants the like a middle ground. I wonder.
I don't know.
That's interesting.
He also has like he's an engineer, so he
Oh,
has a
yeah.
pretty extensive
Yeah.
background. Like he bought his own telemetry, like suspension testing devices.
Oh my God.
That wasn't provided by Fox or
Yeah.
Rocky. Like that's his.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff like that where he's just like, hey, like I want to do this sort of testing, and I don't think the budget was always there to do it. And that's something that he obviously has more access to with another brand, as well as different bikes. Like, Canyon makes everything.
Yeah.
He's got a road bike now too, and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. They're in road gravel. And they got the downhill with Luca and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if those guys ever like meet up or talk. I know it's two separate things, but
Yeah, I would think they have to though, especially since they're in a lot of the same places now.
right.
It's like I know I was looking at Instagram the other day, and like Remy was posting a whole bunch of videos of watching the World Cup downhill.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm sure they're hanging out. It's just like us. We went to snowshoe.
Yeah.
It's like anybody that rides bikes, it doesn't really matter. Like we're gonna talk to each other. So
Right.
I'm sure they do it at the top level too.
Yeah. What's kind of funny is I don't know. A lot of mountain bikers watch motocross. Like I love motocross, but I don't think it goes the other way on that end. Maybe a little,
Yeah.
but not. A lot of them watch a lot of road bike riding, like the Tour or something like that. But I don't know. It's a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, with like moto and supercross, I think there's a handful of guys that mountain bike, but there's also like two. I know in GNCC there's like two ways of looking at the training. Like there's a lot of people that complain about Stu, but I don't know.
Dude, I know.
He's got his own like ideas, and it's like some of them are working for him, but he's like pretty anti ride a bike. He's like, yeah, you want to get faster on a dirt bike. He's like, why would you ride a bicycle? He's like, I'm not trying to go out and do the world tour, Tour de France. He's like, I'm trying to get better at riding a dirt bike, so I'm going to go ride a dirt bike more. And then you have other guys like Thad. He's like, yeah, I like riding road bikes. He's like, increasing my endurance that way, and it's a little bit of a variety. I think I definitely fall more in that mindset, but I'm also not competing at the top level of dirt bike related racing. I just do it for fun right now.
Yeah, I saw Stu. He was at Snowshoe the first year he was there, and he put Perion on his dirt bike, and he went up and down the village doing wheelies. Were you there?
I wasn't there that year, but
I was like right in there. I was like, this is wild.
Yeah, everybody was sending me videos and stuff, and one buddy, Ryan Grog, and Micah have videos of them just like hitting the rev limiter on the ski slope.
Oh, really?
Just like holding it wide open, no shirt on, American flag like painted on his chest.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was having a good time.
Yeah, so the Europeans loved fireworks. So I guess they had him in a room somewhere, and then like as the night went on, I saw Brooke McDonald. He was just carrying these fireworks to the pits, and we were like, something bad's gonna happen. And they were shooting Roman candles at one another. I was just like, these guys. Well, the first year was at Snowshoe. It was the end of the year. That was the end of the race. So these guys were like, we're letting loose.
Oh yeah,
And
party.
yeah, and now they've kind of put it like. Snowshoe Pie's like, can you put us in the middle of the season? That was too much.
Yeah. Like, we got the GNCC and then the World Cup. It's like similar people that are all crazy.
Yeah. In the middle of West Virginia.
Yeah.
This year it's second to last race, so I guess it all depends on. I think it still won't be as wild as that time. I think that was like just chaotic.
Yeah. I think it's finals too. Like everybody's like, yeah, we're done. Like. Whatever happened, and now we can let loose and just get wild. They had like pit bikes going through the
Oh, yeah.
hotel rooms and stuff, the hallways.
Yeah, they said I talked to somebody, and they said, yeah, we arrested a few people that night. So, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. What do you think of the new like TV format or the whole format of having semis and all that with the downhill?
Yeah, I get it. I know why they did it. I don't think the coverage is as good as
Right.
when Red Bull did it. I do like that they scooped up enduro and it's all under
Yeah.
like one platform. But that's about the only thing I like
Yeah.
about it. Um, I mean, I would say that they're definitely learning some things this
Yeah.
year. I haven't watched as much of the downhill as I'd like. The enduro coverage doesn't seem much different from last year because it's still like a lot of the same media teams on the YouTube videos and stuff. And then I know they changed the format a little bit. Like they don't have, as far as enduro goes, they don't have like the pro stage and then a day of racing, which that's kind of people are on the fence about that. I like it because it's kind of my idea of enduro
Yeah.
was like go out and practice for a day, go out and ride for a day, and race for a day. Where I didn't really like the whole like pro stage thing and making one stage have more points than the other. I just felt like
Yeah.
it was too convoluted for spectators and stuff to follow. So I like the simplicity of that. And I get why they're doing the semifinals and stuff, but I don't know if it's the right direction or not.
Did you see Pirion's post about that?
No.
So Amari, he's out for a while, and he
Yeah.
talks about like, well, first he talked about safety on the track,
Yeah.
and he's like, you guys want more races, but I guess he like some kind of vertebrae in his neck. He ended up racing the semis, and he didn't realize he had something in his neck. But he's like, y'all want more races, but I don't think he's pumped on this new system.
Yeah.
I could see a lot of riders like that. Like, you want us to go again just as hard? Like we just gave it our all.
Yeah. I can understand that too. Like, I mean, they're risking their lives, and I get that, but it's also like it's your choice.
Yeah,
If you don't want to do it, then don't do it.
yeah,
So, like that's why I go race. Like I consider the consequences for sure, but I don't know. I'm not World Cup
yeah.
level. I'm barely. Maybe at the very bottom of the World Cup.
And then we don't have Rob, so you got to miss Rob as an announcer. It's just like,
Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer.
yeah,
I like the old days when Rob was drunk in the stand or like in the booth and
Yeah.
just saying wild stuff.
yeah.
That's the days I miss.
I think it was at Snowshoe. 1 year, yeah. I think it might have been it was another year at the race. He was kind of chill, kind of relaxed, but then after the race, he was kind of like having some beers with some dudes. And I was like, dude, this is probably super cool. He called the races at Bentonville Bike Fest this year. Ron was the announcer.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
And I was
Okay.
like, man, could you imagine just doing like a little like I'm not gonna say like dumb enduro, but it's super chill, and Rob's your announcer. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
Like some people probably didn't even know like why do we have this British guy?
Yeah. What's up with him?
Yeah, what's up with this guy? But where do you think? We looked at your e-bikes. Where do you think e-bikes? Is that the new like where everything's headed? Do you like so? We were just talking about this. We went from like 3-ring chainring up front. Then we went to a 1x. Then we went to the Eagle, and I don't know. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And everything's kind of like we went to 27.5, which is still around, but some people think it might fade. Is everything kind of shifting to e-bikes, you think, or like where do you think some of the sport's going to go?
There's definitely a lot of focus on e-bikes right now, and I think it's to make this. My perspective on it is kind of like to make the sport easier to get into.
Yeah.
And more inclusive for everyone, because you know how it is if you take your buddy that's never ridden before and you go out and ride, like you get to the top of every climb and he or she is apologizing constantly, or like, I'm sorry I'm slow, I'm new at this, blah blah blah. you put that same person on an e-bike and it takes the like accordion
Yeah.
out of the ride. It's like it allows them to keep similar pace with you and not get as tired and get a very similar amount of enjoyment out of it. So I think that's where e-bikes are coming into play. I don't think it's not going to replace normal mountain bikes, because you always have hopefully dudes like you and I, they're just like, yeah, I'd rather go out and I would rather ride a regular mountain bike or a dirt bike.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want the two extremes, just like, yeah, I have this light 30-pound enduro bike, or I have a 230-pound dirt bike that I can barely keep between me.
Yeah.
And like, though, for some people, like the vast majority of people, like they don't have land to ride a dirt bike on.
Right.
So you can take an e-bike and you can go ride your city trails on it. You can keep up with all your friends. You're not super tired afterwards. Or it's for the person that's like, they just had a baby and they don't have the time to go out. So like, hey, I can, my normal like 3-hour rides that I do on Saturdays, I can reduce that down to an hour and a half because I don't have to worry about 2 45-minute climbs.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where it's coming in. I hope it doesn't replace bikes in general. But
I have noticed the resale of my, I guess, acoustic bike or whatever normal bike, it seems harder and harder. Like it's getting harder.
yeah, especially post-COVID.
Yeah.
Is what I've noticed. Like even I have a used, barely used cyclocross bike up for sale, and I figured it would be nabbed like this month or next at most, because cyclocross season is about to happen. And I've gotten some bites on it, but like people are so particular about everything.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's a lot of people that picked up a bike during COVID and they're like, I like it, but it's not drastically out of date or anything. There's been a lot of innovation over the past like 10 years, but it's slowed down in the last 2 or 3, I think. So everybody still feels like they have a pretty up-to-date bike. They don't need to go buy another $5,000 plus dollar one. Plus with everybody kind of, being a little bit more reserved with spending, it's from like the studies and stuff that I've seen, it's similar back to before COVID, where people weren't just making blind like $5,000 choices because they're like, screw it, the world might end. I'm just gonna buy a bike.
Yeah, I know a guy who took out all his 401k because he thought the world was going to end. He's like, I should have thought about that one a little more. Yeah, just a little bit.
That's wild.
Yeah.
might be the most extreme case.
Yeah, he worked for me in Arkansas. I'm just like, God, man, he was getting back on his feet, but he's like, yeah, man, I thought the world was going to end, so I had to travel the country. And I was just like, and he's like, nah, I got to figure it back out. I'm like, dude, what? I was like, you should have like recorded your travels and maybe could have like a YouTube could have taken off or something. And he's like, I don't care about any of that. I'm like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
This guy was kind of like, you give him advice and he'd be like, I don't know. And then he's like, man, I think I might take. He was cool. He worked for me. But he's like, I might take this other job. I was like, oh, okay, where's it at? And it would be like this like dumbass job, like, and I was like. He's like, yeah, the guy said I can really move my way up. I go, well, that guy's lying to you. I was like, I just don't think it's going to work. And he ended up, like, I talked him out of it. I was like, you don't have to stay with us, but I wouldn't take that job. And he's like, oh, okay. I was just like, now I see why your 401k is gone. Have you seen that bike that I think it's belt driven, and then the motor is basically... I think it's an e-bike that everything's like right there inside right there, and there's no derailleur or anything.
Oh yeah, it just got.
What's that Euro bike or something? They showed
Yeah,
it.
it was like last week they got posted. I think it's in collaboration with Pinion.
Yeah.
Making the internal transmissions.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was just talking to my dad like a couple weeks about this. I was like, man, I wish with all like the e-bikes and stuff coming out, or just mountain bikes in general, is like every other off-road equipment that has gears is like it's all internal.
Mm-hmm.
Dirt bikes have been an internal transmission for years, but they're all just concerned about weight. And I was like, yeah, everybody knows the benefits of internal transmission, but I'm hoping that picks up and people
Yeah.
see it, and just like lowers the maintenance. It takes all the weight off the rear wheel. I don't know about the whole belt drive thing,
Yeah.
because then you have to make a frame with basically a gap in it that you can slide a belt through.
Yeah.
So there's some complications there. I still like I know why they're doing it too, because of weight and wear.
Yeah.
Like they don't stretch as much or get worn out basically. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to see where that goes.
Yeah.
And if it catches on.
It's pretty interesting. It's it yeah, the belt thing is, I'm more intrigued by that, I think, than the whole internal system, just because how's that belt, like if it's super muddy, how's that belt gonna be and all that?
Yeah, I guess only time will tell.
Yeah.
You look at like side by sides and stuff, and like razors are belt
Yeah.
driven. Specialized e-bike motors have a belt on the inside, but yeah, having that outside exposed to the elements. I've seen other belt drive bicycles before, but they're usually a single speed.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines, like pretty simple. So I'm anxious to see how it'll do under the load of a motor for one, and I'm hoping the like Pinion or another like gearbox company kind of picks up, because once they start making internal transmissions just as light as like a regular mountain bike drivetrain, I would think that that would come on. But
Yeah.
your center of gravity in the center takes all the chances of like ruining your shifting precision by hitting a rock, like kind of takes that out of the equation.
You're right, right.
So, and it's like you don't hear too many people like racing dirt bikes are like, oh yeah, I lost the race because like I've heard of the shifter ripping off from like catching on a stick or something, but now like, oh yeah, I got a stick in my transmission, so I couldn't finish the race.
Yeah.
It's like, and that happens at least once at every mountain bike race.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like your hanger, my hanger always gets bent. It's like that damn thing. Or something. I had actually the hanger on a pretty easy trail, but a rock just kicked me, and it kicked that hanger right into my wheel as I was riding. Like locked up instantly. I was like, geez, I had to walk out. I had a 2-mile walk.
Yeah.
No downhill. That was back in XC days.
I had a guy a couple weeks ago. I was up in New Jersey where I was doing a demo for a shop up there, and sent him out on an e-bike. And he came back. The chain was broken, the hanger was bent, and the derailleur was in 3 pieces.
Oh my God.
I go, what did you do? I was like, I always tell people on e-bikes, like, try not to shift under pressure.
Mm.
You can if you have to, but like you grab 6 gears, like something's gonna break. And he said he was going through like a dried up creek bed or something, and then I got too close to a concrete abutment of some sort, like like a curb or something. It was in New Jersey, so there's a mix of like wilderness and urban stuff all in one.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I had it in a big gear. It was hanging down pretty low, and he's like, I hit this, and it's just everything exploded. It ripped the nipple and out of the rim, like spoke and nipple, everything just came out.
Oh my God!
The derailleur went in, and it just exploded.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Dang.
That's been the worst one so far, like in all the demos and stuff that I've done. That's probably the worst.
Yeah, you're probably like, dang, man.
Like, you really fucked that one up. Good job.
I heard there's been some, just as people I know, with Axis and e-bikes, because like you were saying, you don't want to shift under load, or they shift too fast. And then I just recently heard that you can change it to where it only shifts singly versus running through it.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
Yeah. As far as I know, like with the Axis program, you can basically change it to where you can push the button, hold down, and it'll just shift through it. I know the old, like, Axis versus transmission is a little bit different too. Like transmission will only shift so fast, or the the last generation Axis stuff is actually a little bit quicker. Like you can pop through gears quicker. But I think you can program it, customize it in the app,
Yeah.
like however you want, which is ridiculous when you start talking about like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I changed how my bike shifts on the app.
Yeah, that's gonna be a hard one for me to process for a while.
I mean, I guess it's no different than like a Tesla,
Yeah.
where you change everything on the settings, but
Yeah, I upgraded my car today. You did what? Yeah, I upgraded my car.
You mean like you got a new one? You're like, nah, it's just software.
Yeah, software.
What?
I'm sorry, you lost me. Yeah, because I saw when I was in Bentonville, 2 people dropped chains or broke chains as they were shifting, and they're like, yeah, and
Okay.
they both had access. And someone recently was like, yeah, you got to go in there to the app and change it to only shift singularly versus try to run through it all.
Yeah. As our bikes all have Shimano on them right now.
Yeah.
And I wish I could get it approved to just put like the single shift shifter on
Oh,
all
yeah.
of the e-bikes. Like that's what I'd do if they would let me. But they all the ones I have all have XT where you can grab like 4 or 5
Yeah.
gears at a time. So I
Dude.
just go through a little rundown with everybody that I send on an e-bike. I'm like, 1 gear at a time if you must. I was like, or just soft pedal like you would a regular bike.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Oh, what do you mean? Just ripping.
Yeah.
Do you guys do you come to year end and kind of whatever, or when your or each demo and say, report back and say, all right, next year we need to this is what we're seeing out there and kind of change things up?
A little bit, yeah. I basically give an internal demo report after each event, mostly because they're wanting to know like what's the bike that was demanded the most,
All right.
and then like what happened, was anything broke, blah blah blah, and they do carry that into next year to see like what we put in the van, or like what spare parts we need, stuff like that. So they are like keeping track of it somewhat and trying to make improvements based on it. I have 2 or 3 more e-bikes this year compared to last year because of that. Because a lot of people are wanting the like try an e-bike out either for the first time or try ours out versus another brand. And I think the demand's just going up, so that we made changes based on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I know next year too, like Rocky and Shimano have been tight for a few years, but we finally have some bikes with SRAM on them too. I know we're gonna have a few with transmission coming stock for 24, and I'm hoping that one of them is an e-bike.
Yeah.
'Cause I'd like to see how it works with everything, and I would think it would be a pretty good like premium product for demo too. So we'll see.
You guys gonna make like a SL, or you guys got a light version?
I've heard that it's I know we're prototyping stuff. I don't know when the timeline is for
Yeah.
it. So yeah, I think we got a few things in the works, but I got no idea on timeline for now.
Yeah.
Or what like platform it's going to be on.
I know people who raced e-bike class when they're first like enduro, and I don't know if they didn't know or like whatever, and they're like, yeah, man, I mean, and then there'll be like a section where you can only go, you're going as fast as you can, but then they realize that e-bike's only maxed out at 20 miles an hour. They're like,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, I'm just pedaling my ass off because this thing won't go any faster.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, and they're like, and then I know people who've done I think what they call like a gimbal, where you can change it to 20 to, I think you can change it to 30 miles per hour.
Oh, okay.
Or, I don't know, it's basically like back when you used to buy a phone and whatever they call, and but then I've heard there's issues when you do that, like you could run into some issues, like or your bike will say not charge or some kind of like something goofy. It's not always like nice and tight.
Yeah. I know there's different methods out there too. Like I heard with Specialized, a lot of times you could just go in and tell it you have a 12-inch rear tire, and then like you get more max speed.
On the app, you could do that?
Yeah.
Really?
Like, it might have been, they might have fixed it since,
Yeah.
but I know that was like a really easy
That's funny.
like, hack that you could do. And obviously if you went to races and stuff, like that was supposed to be illegal to do, but I don't know who's checking any of that.
Yeah, how
stuff.
they can check? I need to see your app.
Yeah, yeah. Or like GNCC is basically bought by Specialized at this point.
Yeah.
Like I tried to show up to a GNCC event, and I was going to bring one of my dealers with their inventory, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you can come and like do demos, but you can't sell anything on the premise." And I was like, "Oh, why is that?" I was like, "Every other vendor does the same." They're like, "Oh, we have a contract with Specialized."
Ah.
They're like, "Yeah, if." I was like, "Well, is that written in your contract?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh."
Damn.
I was like, "Sweet." So there's just really no point in me going. Like I can do demos, but I had people last year before GNCC had that contract that were asking me like how much the bikes were, and they were like grabbing for their wallet, and I was like, "Oh, they retail for starting off at 42, 45, blah blah blah." And they're like, "Oh, well, how much is this one?" And I was like, "That one retails for 72." And they're like, "Do you take check?" And I was like, no, these are just demo bikes. And they're like, "What? I want to buy it." And I was like, "Well, you have to go to a dealer." And it was always just like this weird conversation.
Yeah.
So this year I was like, "Well, I'll go to the races and I'll bring a dealer with me. And like, I'll have, here's these bikes you can try and here's these bikes you can buy." And like, I got told by the promoter that I can't do that.
Yes. Probably the Specialized guy was probably like, "Hey, we're getting some competition here."
Yeah. I know I guarantee you that's what it was.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I think competition's a good thing. I mean, I don't know. Some people want everything in their corner,
Yeah.
But I don't know. When's your next race? Rock Creek?
Yeah, it'll be nationals.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, well, let's see, this is the 4th. What is next weekend? What am I doing next?
Next weekend's like the 6th, or 7th, 8th.
Dude, I gotta do one. Oh, next weekend's the Grusk. So it's a gravel race up Spruce Knob.
Okay.
I'm more so going to be there, like represent Rocky and promote the new gravel bike a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's my friend Travis Olson's the one putting the race on, and there's always a huge turnout on Saturday. There'll be like food, and a lot of times he has live music, and just like everybody hangs out and camps up near Spruce Knob for the weekend.
That's pretty sweet.
It'll be pretty fun, yeah. But it should be pretty relaxed. I think I only signed up for the 50 because I'm just like, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna ride, but I'm not gonna try to keep up with the lead group.
You should try if it meets up with the calendar next year in Arkansas, the rule of 3. So it's one bike,
Okay.
3 days, single track, gravel, and road.
Oh wow.
Like Lance Armstrong's out there. I mean, his whole crew's kind of like snobs, but like they're out there, and what's the one guy?
Do you have to have one nut to hang out in that group?
What's his name? He seems super cool. He's on an Allied bike, sponsored by Red Bull. Is his name Payson or?
Pacey McLeod.
Yeah. He's done it.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I've always so people they get kind of hung up on, do you go gravel bike or do you go super light XC with almost like gravel tires?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny because you'll see like other people they just don't have to choose.
Yeah. Yeah. There has been a race in West Virginia called the Hillybilly,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like known to be like off-road gravel race, but it had dirt road sections in it. And I think the last 2 times somebody won it was on a super light build full suspension mountain bike with gravel-ish tires.
Yeah.
So, but since then, like gravel bikes have come a long way.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it could, the times could be outdone on a modern gravel bike now, or a mountain bike with drop bar buys.
Yeah.
From the 80s.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like where XC bikes, they got droppers now. They got like some like these like forks. I mean, just some of the high end ones. You're just like, where was this? Like 10 years ago. But it's probably good because then I got it like the full suspension. It's all the shocks all in the frame now. It's like, dang, this is nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any race superstitions?
I don't think so. I try to avoid the superstitious stuff. Like
What about same gear for every race?
no, Nah, I try not to do that either.
Yeah.
Like I have certain gear that I like. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm most comfortable with this, or like these bibs have pockets in the back.
Yeah.
So I'll use stuff like that. And one of my Gunnar Sjogren had a superstition like you should never put your bicycle upside down. Like a lot of people will throw a bike upside down to like take the back wheel off or something.
Yeah.
If they don't have a stand, and that was one of his like, oh, it's bad luck. You can't do that.
Oh.
And I've every time I put a bike upside down, I think of that, but I'm like, no, that's just Gunnar being weird.
Yeah.
I was like, I refuse to let this affect me.
What's the? I don't fish, but the fisherman I think is don't. Someone brings bananas, the banana and the fisherman thing. It's like, I don't know. Oh yeah, that's like bad luck. Like, oh, we're done here. Like, never bring bananas on a fishing boat or something.
Oh, huh.
I think so. I don't know.
I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, and that's like known throughout the fishing industry.
You
Like,
just don't bring bananas on boats.
let me look that up.
Huh.
Let me see while we're talking.
Yeah, it was one of the things that my dad would always do was bring a banana to like the starting line and eat it right before the race, like 15 minutes. He used to race dirt bikes. That was always one of the things. So a lot of times, like the morning of a race, I'll have a banana. But
Here we go. Here's the myth.
we need a third guy like Joe Rogan. Who's just
Yeah.
like, hey, Google this.
I know. They've created a website called Jamie. Look it up. Jamie, pull that up. A popular fishing myth is to have bananas on board. Some anglers believe that having bananas along a trip will not only lead to fishless day, but they can be responsible for a crew falling ill or just bringing bad luck.
Jeez.
Stricter anglers will even go as far as to having no remnants of a banana on the fishing boat. Even banana boat sunscreen.
Nothing banana.
Yeah, that's insane.
I did not know that.
Well, man, hey, thanks for the time, man. I appreciate it. I hope your demo tomorrow, Brown County, turns out. I might actually, if it's good, I might actually come up there.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah. Good catching up. I know it's kind of been a while. We were supposed to do earlier, but this worked out face to face.
That's cool.
But best of luck in the racing. How many more races are in the West Virginia series?
2 left.
Okay.
Yeah, Slady Fork and Snowshoe.
Okay. And what's the best way for people to reach out to, or at least see you on social?
Instagram is what I'm most active on. That's just Flanigan's Wake with an underscore in between.
Yep. Well, cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
Yeah. All right. I know. I didn't realize how long this table was. I'm like, oh, man, this ain't going to work. All right, man. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk to you later.